What's up, everybody? This is Francis over here from Reviews and Playeressence.com, and welcome to my long-awaited review and discussion of Bravely Default for the Nintendo 3DS. Let me just say right off the bat, this game is awesome. Everybody should go buy it. But of course, if you're looking for more of the fine details, you're going to get that here. Plenty to talk about with this game. I'm going to go over everything. It's not going to be ridiculously long, but then again, it's going to be in-depth and detailed. This game is a fresh take on the turn-based combat. It is fantastic. It's turn-based combat redefined. Some of the mechanics in there, the Brave and default system, is completely unique and it's fresh. I mean, there's been other games that have done things like it, but in this turn-based style of game that this is, and what they've done, combining that with all the jobs and different classes and unique loadouts that you can do, absolutely fantastic. It redefines turn-based RPGs, in my opinion. Not only that, but they added a bunch of little things in there to make it more modern, like being able to control the amount of random encounters that you have, being able, of course, difficulty levels at any point. I played it on hard the whole time though. Just so many little things that they did. Also, you can speed up the gameplay real quick, so when you're kind of like going through, trying to grind and get through different jobs, you can speed that up, you can auto battle. There are so many really cool things that this game did to make it more modern, but at the same time harkening back to the old school games like Breath of Fire and Secret of Mana and Final Fantasy VI and so many of the great RPGs in the past, Chrono Trigger, that this game does. This is a 100% triple A in my opinion. Absolutely fantastic game. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about some of the things about this game because there is some controversy surrounding it. It's not all 100% good. So let's go and let's talk about those things first, because I have another Jamie Butterworth. Me and him, we got into, of course not an argument, but a little discussion on my site, and he was really upset about this game. But at the same time, there's lots of other people that are also upset about this game too, as far as what it does. So probably the biggest thing that people are going to talk about is, outside of the microtransaction, which we'll get to next, but the biggest thing is the pacing and what happens after a certain chapter. Now, this is a spoiler-free review and discussion, so I'm not going to spoil anything, but I will say that there is some rehashing going on, and it really just breaks the flow, the pacing of the game, and that is probably the biggest detriment to this game, is that its pacing is so good. You're going through, you're progressing, you're getting different things, you're leveling up, everything's great, the story's progressing, and then there's this part that you get to, and it just kind of just kind of just goes completely down, and there's some rehashing going on. But once you get past that and you get back to the core elements of the game of progressing, it ends spectacularly. I mean, the ending is fantastic, and it leaves you hyped, completely hyped to play the next game in the franchise, and the story just gets better, and there's some interesting elements in there, and a wow factor, like, oh wow, can't believe that happened at the end of the game. So you get through that part, which is, I think, after a certain chapter. I'm not going to name the chapter to that could be seen as a spoiler. But anyway, you get through a certain point. Once you get past that, it's fantastic. And plus, the combat in the game more than makes up for it. So now the next thing that I want to talk about is the microtransaction. Now, the microtransaction in the game, a lot of people are upset about this because, well, I wouldn't say a lot of people, but people are upset about it because what it does is that there's this mechanic called Bravely Second in the game. Now, when you go into Bravely Second, at any point when you press the start button on your Nintendo 3DS, it'll basically stop time, and you can use attacks that use up your SP points instead of your regular BP points, which is your Brave points. So you can stop time and basically do that. Now, to get those points, the SP points to do your Bravely Second, you need to actually put the game in sleep mode, and there's like a meta game going on. The longer you leave the game in sleep mode, the more your town builds up people, and that's through net play, which we'll also get into later. So there's kind of a mechanic built into why you want your 3DS on sleep mode, and it takes 8 hours to build up 1 SP point, and or you can just buy the SP point right off the bat. It's not needed. That's the one thing that I want to stress with this. Bravely Second, you don't even need to use Bravely Second. I played the game on the hardest difficulty, and I used it one time just to check it out what it was, because I saw Jamie he got real mad about it as far as on my way on Playeressence.com, just talked about it. So I was like, oh, let me check out that. I didn't even know what it was. Like, they tell you in the tutorial, but I was like, whatever, I don't need it. And I did it, and I was like, that's the thing that people are getting so upset about? You don't even need this stupid attack. It's easy. It makes the game easier, and I want the game to be hard. I mean, I put the game on the hardest difficulty. I didn't use some of the ab links and summons that make the game easier. So I was over here, as far as the summons go, summoning your other characters. As far as the summoner class, I use that. But of course, like I said, we'll get into that later. But there's no point in buying an SP drink. There's no point in using Bravely Second. There's more than enough weapons, abilities, stuff to do, levels to get for you to have all your strategies and not need to use that. There's even an ability to where you can time slip, and like if you die, you can actually time slip and go back to the beginning of the fight. So there's all sorts of other things that you can do if you need help as far as with the game, or if you find it too hard. There's all sorts of different strategies to employ. Bravely Second is not needed, and while I don't like to see that in there, it's at the same time it's not needed, so I don't care. So getting that out of the way as far as the pacing and the microtransaction, those are the kind of the bad things. Now from there, it's all good. Bravely Default is a fantastic game. So we're going to talk about the graphics first in this game. What I like about what they did with this game, they know that the Nintendo 3DS is not the most powerful system out there. Don't try to make this realistic looking game, or even kind of like Fire Emblem Awakening, where they took like the anime looking route as far as the characters, how they look when they talk to each other, but then the in-game graphics are kind of like polygonal, like 3D, and try to be more realistic, and the towns are also full 3D. That I think had a detriment to the game's overall look. The anime stuff looked great, but then the models and all the other things kind of didn't look that great, although it looked okay with the 3D on. Bravely Default takes a completely different path. Now, the overworld map, it's kind of course, it's 3D and stuff like that. But when you get to the actual towns and how, like, when you go into a town, it's completely hand-drawn. And that makes the 3D just pop. It just makes the 3D pop, and it makes it look so good because the hand-drawn art and the art style is fantastic. Whoever drew these pictures is a wizard with the pen, is a wizard with it. So the fact that they were able to make it look the way that it did, and the way when you turn on the 3D and it just goes, it just shoots out there, it's so good. And I think more games need to make that art style. Not only that, it's also a technical benefit because the 3DS isn't as powerful. By doing hand-drawn 2D art, hand-drawn art, that takes a load off of the system, is the processors and all that, to where you can make the game run smoother in other areas as far as just going through the town and stuff like that, and maybe other elements in the game. It saves you some processing power there. So that is a fantastic decision. Absolutely love it. And I love the way the character models look, because I think on a technical level, there's other games out there like Shin Megami Tensei and other games that are actually better on a technical level from the polygon count, but Bravely Default looks better because of the art style. They took a more simplistic approach, they took more of a cut and dry, really stylized approach to the art and the character models, and it shows. I mean, all the different classes, they all look really cool and unique, and the outfits look good. I absolutely love the art style. I know some people didn't really like it as much, like the cute looking art style, but I actually really like it, and the character art in the game is good. They kind of have like a dual model. They have like a more realistic style that you've seen some of the art, and then they have like the more of the cuter art style, and it just it blends well. I think the hand-drawn back art, the art style, and with some of the 3D and polygonal models in there, because like the characters are full polygonal models as far as 3D goes, I think it all just works well. It all just works well, and it plays to the Nintendo 3DS's strengths. So I absolutely love the fantastic art style, love all that, love the special effects from like the magic and all that. Fantastic. A lot of them, like when you use like the blizzard spell, or when you use thunder, or when you use any of your different types of spells, it looks really good, it animates good, it's smooth. And like some of the boss battles, like the asterisk boss battles where you go to get your side quests and your different job classes, how you're in the barrier, there's just a lot of different varied art styles, there's a lot of different varied environments, and overall the presentation, like with the menus and the sounds, classic Final Fantasy type sounds and stuff like that when you're going through, everything's just slick, quick, and clean. Everything just gels, it flows. You never feel like you're kind of slogging through a menu. You're always feeling like, hey, I can get through this quickly, I can find exactly what I need. The organization is perfect, the layout is good. There is some stuff that you can do in the item management that could be a little bit better as far as finding weapons go, but it's still really slick and really good. The dual screens really help with organization as far as the presentation in combat, where you can move over to the right and see what status effects that you have, what boosts you have, what buffs that you have on there, and then when you move over to the left, you can actually see what the enemy has, what buffs they have, how much HP that they have, and then of course on the center you can see your turns, and as far as like your class and stuff like that, and your levels. And so it's just all set up so well as far as the presentation goes. It looks fantastic. It looks fantastic. It plays fantastic. And I couldn't have asked for a better presentation in this, in Bravely Default. Like I said, this is the upgraded one. This is not the original release. We got the upgraded one, so they added a lot of cool little things and big things, like I said, with the difficulty and with the encounter rates and with the speeding up of combat. So the presentation and graphics, absolutely fantastic. Now, moving on to the actual story, like I said, I'm not going to talk about story much, and I never do because I don't like spoilers, and I'm not going to spoil it. But let me just say this, like I said, the pacing is very well into that one part, and then they have that part. But at the end ends spectacularly, and trust me, you are going to be hyped. When you get to the end of this game, you're going to be hyped for the next game. You're going to be like, oh man, I cannot wait to play the next one. There's a lot of different twists in there. There's a lot of different things that they do. Now, I will say with the story, with some of the rehashing that goes on, it's kind of necessary. I wouldn't say 100% necessary, but it's kind of just to kind of prove a point at what happens. But at the same time, like, I think that the characters, I think that the different place that you go on, the dialogue, just like the voice acting is superb. Nintendo and Square Enix did a fantastic job with casting the voice actors. And I'll tell you something right now, the story flows and it goes well because of Ring-a-Bell. This character, Ring-a-Bell, holds this story together like gel. He's a key part in the story as far as, because he doesn't know who he is and he doesn't know what's going on, but he has a book. He has a book that can predict the future, and he doesn't know why. So you're going off this book and you're trying to figure out. But then you also have Agnes, who's the wind vestal, who's basically the main centerpiece, kind of the centerpiece of all of this with the crystals, and because you have to go awaken all the 4 crystals to save the world. That's the basic premise of the game. And you're going in and you're awakening the crystals from each area of the land. So the fact that you do all of that, then the fact that you have Ring-a-Bell for the comedic relief, and then the main character, or also another one, they're all main characters, but then you have Tiz, who's like the strong main character, which is an awesome thing with him at the end too. And of course you have then you have Adia, who's kind of a traitor, and she's going against her own. So basically you're fighting against your father and his, and of course his team that you are, so you're basically a traitor. So there's a very good dynamic between each character, has a different background, is very vast and varied. Tiz is the sole survivor of his town, you know, from the great cataclysm that happens. You guys have seen the trailers where he's trying to save his brother and he doesn't. So each character has their own background, their own varied thing, very different from each other, and they all come together to save the world. So it's just, the story is absolutely amazing. I absolutely love it. Like I said, they have that one part that's just kind of like, but at the end you kind of figure out, okay, well, it kind of falls in line to why that they did that. I don't want to excuse it, but at the same time, it falls in line. If you do all the side quests and stuff like that, you do learn more about the story. And this game is fantastic because it actually spans back almost 2,000 years as far as what's going on. But you actually have to do the side quests to learn about all of that. So make sure you do the side quests if you go pick up this game, and you'll learn about the story, the backstory in this game, and what leads up to what's going on right now. And so absolutely fantastic. So you need to get all of that done if you want to have the full experience of Bravely Default story. But like I said, no specifics, no absolute spoilers. I didn't spoil anything there. Just excitement, excite. Trust me, you want to play this game, especially if you're an old school Final Fantasy fan. All right, next we're going to move on to the gameplay, and this is where Bravely Default just goes, just like punches pretty much every single other JRPG on the market, with a few exceptions here and there. The gameplay is superb. The job system, the classes are fantastic. You will find endless possibilities. You will find countless strategies. You will find so many different things you can do. And the basic premise of it, because this is something that I could take all day talking about, but I'm going to lay it out pretty cleanly. As far as the combat system, with the core mechanics of the Brave and the default system, one of the best integrated core combat systems I've seen. Basically what you can do is you can actually store up energy or store up battle points, you know, by pressing the default and blocking, which basically reduces your damage and all of that good stuff. And then you can act that many turns in the next one. So if you store up 3, you can do 3 consecutive attacks after you've stored them up. Or from the very beginning, you can actually queue up all of those attacks with the Brave system, just queue them up and unleash, but then you'll be, however many attacks you queue up without storing your default first, you'll actually be out of that many turns where you can't act. So there's a lot of risk-reward going on with the core combat system of the Brave and the default. So, that is also another one of the things that really shines about this game's core combat. All of the characters have base stats, and they're all pretty close, and this ties in well because there's a different job system. And when you switch jobs, basically that gives you a whole different layout of moves you can learn. Each job can level up to level 14 along with your main level of your character, which is level 99, which you improve in stats like that. But here's the thing, when you switch job classes, of course they have, they're better in some stats and not. As you level up in that job class by earning job points, which is separate from your experience points, which you learn for your character, you learn different abilities and different skills. Those skills can actually help you because when you're done with that class, you can actually take some of those skills into your personal loadout and have your loadout. So for example, I'll give you guys a perfect example of this. The ninjas are awesome. They're really fast. They have the dual wield ability to where when you carry two weapons or when you carry a weapon in each hand, it basically doesn't cut the power in half, because usually if you carry a weapon in each hand, it'll cut the power in half for each of them. Well, when you have the dual wield ability, you won't be, that's not a problem. You'll have basically double the power. So that is a trait that's a trait that's specific to the ninja. But when you level up the ninja, you actually learn that dual wield ability to where you can be a different class and have that ability with you. And you have a loadout to where you can pick 5 different things. Now, each ability is better than some of the other abilities. So you have kind of like little abilities that take up 1 slot, like for instance, like magic defense plus 10%. Okay, and you can put that in and that'll take up 1 of your slots. And then you have the bigger abilities like dual wield, that's a 2-slot ability, you know, and you have 5 total. You'll work up to 5 total. So that's one of the dynamics that you kind of have to do. You kind of have to prioritize your character. But if you have your base character, you can have that ability. So for example, that's set. Like the ninja is dual wield, that's set, then they have like another ability that they have too. Plus you can also, any ability or any class that you already have, you can set that as a secondary ability and use those skills in battle too. So there's so much customization. Like I said, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Of course, each class has different affinities with certain weapons. For instance, ninjas are really good with kunais, but not so good with bows and arrows and stuff like that. So anywhere from E, which is being the worst, all the way to S rank, depending on what letter that you are, that's basically how well you can wield the weapon and how much of a bonus that you get of actual damage that you do. Some, like, you know, ninja's not very good in like armor. So like when you wear armor, you don't get as much benefits, you know, as somebody like the knight, who's like a tank, and he can wear armor and his armor's at an S class. But here's the cool thing, you can learn in all of those different classes, you can actually learn like stuff called like armor lore or katana lore or kunai lore or dagger lore, to where you can basically, you set that as one of your abilities and you can basically be that high in that stat, and even though you're not that job class. So that's really cool. You can customize and switch up things. Like I said, the combat abilities are endless. And sorry, hopefully I didn't confuse too many of you guys with all of that, but trust me, once you get it's a little confusing at the beginning, especially coming out the demo where the max level is 3 and then you go up to 14, you start learning all these different skills. But once you get the hang of this, trust me, you're going to be customizing, you're going to be switching things up, you're going to be trying out all different types of stuff, especially when you get to the net play and some of the other stuff that they have in there. Like I said, the magic classes are really cool. I like the fact how all the characters, now there's some characters that do have better base stats, so they might be better at magic from the beginning. Like for instance, like Agnes the Wind Vestal, she is better at base stat as far as magic goes. But there's all sorts of different buffs and enhancements to where you can have somebody who's maybe not quite as good as magic still be a very effective magic user. Same thing goes for like HP, or same thing goes for defense or speed. Everybody, there's still, you know, they all have their things that they're a little bit better than the other character, but it's not so different to where you wouldn't want to be able to have any character, or any character can't become any class and still be very effective. Like I said, there's so many different skills. I don't want to ruin some of the other classes, which, you know, Nintendo's shown some of them, but there's some skills in there and some combinations and some layouts that basically just where you can just wreak havoc and absolutely dominate. I'm a big fan of the Spirit Master, so if any of you guys are watching this, the Spirit Master is awesome. Combine that with white magic and you got yourself healing, crazy, nullifying mage. So there's all sorts of really cool things about this game as far as that goes. The net play is fantastic. This is where Nintendo should take some pointers from Square Enix and Silicon Studio about this. The net play is awesome. You can actually summon other people's your friends list and your net friends characters to your game and have them use a skill to help you out in battle. You can ab link with your friends to where you can put them to each character. Each one of the 4 characters can have an ab link and use abilities from those characters. Now, I didn't do that because I felt that's too cheap. With you already have 2 sets of skills yourself, and then also another set of skills that you can use. I didn't use that, but I thought it's really cool. I've seen other people use it, and I tried it out at the beginning. I was like, oh, I don't like this. It makes the game easier. So I didn't do that myself, but I think it's also really cool. I love the town building mechanics because when the game's in sleep mode, or even while you're playing the game, you have to rebuild Tiz, the main character's village that got destroyed. And as you rebuild it, you can rebuild weapon shops, item shops, and basically get new items and new weapons to purchase from like a Resident Evil 4 style merchant. He doesn't say what you're buying, he doesn't do all that, but he's just everywhere, and he's just like, hey, and he just like gives like little tips, like, oh, he'll say like little things like, oh, there's somebody strong over there, or there's hard at work, I see, and he'll just be all over the place. So it's it might be a little stab or a little nod to the merchant from Resident Evil 4, but absolutely cool. Absolutely love all of the different stuff, all the different online play, and the online play and the net play as far as your characters goes, that factors into the end of the game too. So you'll have a nice surprise there. I also want to mention the Nemesis battles. This is where you can continue playing the game. This is why it's like, okay, well, even though after the game is done, which there is New Game Plus, just to let you guys know, there is New Game Plus, which I spent over 120 hours already just playing through the single player game, just one time through getting everything, 120 hours into the game. But there are Nemesis battles, so there's always replay value, so you can go back in there, you can fight Nemesis, you can send Nemesis, you can receive Nemesis from your friends, and they're all like, there's a lot of them like at level 99, there's lower level ones like 50 and I think like 80, but there's level 99 and they do all sorts of weird type of abilities. They're definitely tougher boss battles, but with all the different customization that you have at your disposal, you'll be able to find ways to take them down. So right now I'm tackling all the Nemesis battles myself. Fantastic, hard, and a lot of cheap abilities that the enemies have, but at the same time, there's, like I said, the Spirit Master is the key to winning pretty much a lot of the tougher battles in this game. So overall, Bravely Default is just, I think it's a revolutionary Japanese RPG. I think it really takes the turn-based style of combat and says, why can't turn-based be fast? Why can't turn-based be quick? Why can't turn-based be something new and something fresh and innovative? And Bravely Default just says, we're going to do all of that in this game. I can't say enough good things about this game. I absolutely love it. Like I said, I call it games like this like digital crack, because you don't want to stop playing. There's always the next ability to learn. There's always the next thing to do. There's always something that you need to progress. And that's why I love Japanese RPGs, and that's why I love RPGs in general, because there's always something next to do. There's always something to progress. There were so many times where I turned off the game and I went and sat down and I thought about it. I did some work and I'm thinking about it. I would actually do battles in between me posting on the website. So overall, absolutely love the game. So a lot of you guys probably want to know a final score for this game. My final score for it is a 9.5 out of 10. Absolutely fantastic. The pacing, the reason why I got knocked down, it would be a perfect 10, but the pacing was just basically a little wrong after that one point. And the microtransaction, while it's useless and it doesn't really matter, the fact that it's in there kind of can piss people off. So, but that shouldn't be a reason why you don't buy the game. So overall, the game is fantastic. Really good, 9.5 out of 10. Presentation is beautiful. The combat is fantastic. Some of the best turn-based combat, if not the best turn-based combat I've ever played in a Japanese RPG. It is a brilliant story that leaves you pumped and excited for the next game. The graphics are really good. The presentation is slick and set up right. The stuff in there to where you can speed up the game, change the difficulty levels at any point, change the encounter rate as far as how many enemies that you get, or you can lower it and raise it. All the different abilities, the net play, the online features, the street pass that it has in there to build your town, the meta game in there for when your game's on sleep mode, all that creates just a fantastic experience that's going to get you, if you want to get everything, at least 120 hours, and I still haven't maxed out all the job classes. I mean, this game's going to last you a long time, especially if you factor the Nemesis battles. The replay value is almost endless. So, fantastic game. Go out there and buy it, and I think I've talked about this game enough. 9.5 out of 10. Fantastic. Alright, so that basically wraps it up for this review and discussion. Hopefully you guys liked it. For all things Bravely Default, check out the description below. There's plenty of good stuff, and I'm going to be having another discussion on something that Square Enix said about the sales of this game and their direction. I'm pretty sure you guys, if you're on Playeressence, you know about that. The article will be in the description below. Make sure you check that out. I'm going to be having a discussion on that soon, so you're going to want to be informed. Also, make sure you give us a like here on PE Reviews and Playeressence.com. Trust me, when you give us a like, it helps us spread our content out there. Make sure you subscribe. I upload videos all the time. I do reviews, Let's Plays, all sorts of good stuff. Plus, I have an Ultra unboxing coming up soon and a new Let's Play announcement. So trust me, you're going to want to lock it in here to PE Reviews and on Playeressence.com for all the latest information. All right then, guys, this basically wraps it up, and we will see you guys for the next video. Peace.